Welcome back to Lenz's Comic Corner Classics / Non-Classics. This is episode number 665. Yep, 665. And Doubleshot number 569. Two ZZ trades. One, I have reviewed a trade for this particular series before. The other one, I've never reviewed a book that collects this particular character, but I have reviewed one from this particular series of trades. Alright, first up, it is Resurrection Man, Volume 1. No subtitle. Yeah, I've looked up, it's been a while since I've done this. Yeah, I have reviewed Resurrection Man in the past. Yeah, but it was one of the triple shots, but apparently I didn't review the first volume of the second, let's see. Yeah, apparently I reviewed it in episode 138 3 years ago. Yeah, it's been a while, and of course I was in a different spot in my old room. I was sitting in my bed reviewing that trade, but I have not reviewed this trade, nor have I reviewed the first trade that collects issues in the second volume for the series. Gotta point this out though, this is the only trade that collects issues from the first volume. Yeah. Despite the fact this series did not last for 14 issues, this volume lasted for 27 issues and had an issue 1 million. For some strange reason, DC decided not to do a volume 2. And do you know how long ago this trade was released? 7 years ago. And it's actually a really good condition for a 7-year-old trade. Now, these issues were released during the time period of the mid-90s. Yep. This was released in 1997. Yes, 1997. This ended in 1999 of all things. Ended pretty much around the same time as doing the whole DC 1 million one-shots. The entire series, well, basically the issues in the trade, are written by Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning. This is an original character from them, but it's all by DC Comics. This is probably by far the only comic they worked on together at DC together. Because a lot of their other known works, they worked at Marvel. Stuff like Force Works, Guardians of the Galaxy. Of course, Dan Abnett is currently working for DC Comics doing the Aquaman book, which he's been doing since 2015. He's been in the book for 3 years now. As for Andy Lanning, however, he's not doing anything. I'm not kidding. He's doing jack frickin' squat. Yeah. When this trade was released, it came out, price tag for this thing was $30. I got this thing for $5 at my local Ollie's. I'm quite happy the fact I got my hands on this book because I like the character of Resurrection Man. Just too bad, apparently other people just don't care about buying his book. I could explain why his last volume they put DC published from 2011-2012 got canceled at 12 issues and issue 0 due to low sales. Resurrection Man, what he is, essentially put, is his real name is Mitch Shelley. He's a guy who, no matter how many times they kill him, he keeps coming back, but he keeps coming back with a different superpower. It's kind of similar how DC treats Solomon Grundy when they kill him off and he comes back differently, different personality. With him, a different power, like fire. One time he did this. I'm not kidding, he actually did this in the comic. He basically, there's even an issue in here that's tied into the crossover event Genesis. Genesis was a series published over the course of an entire month, released weekly, written and drawn by John Byrne, where apparently Apocalypse is trying to install a new religion across the whole planet. Yeah, the second time Apocalypse involved in a crossover, at DC Comics. Yeah, the second time. First time was Legends. Second time was Genesis. Genesis, the third and last known time that Apocalypse was a major player in a major crossover, not counting Godhead from a few years ago. After that was Final Crisis. Yep. Oh yeah, and they have these two women who just recurring characters in the series, not much about them. They briefly go to Apocalypse and also run the group of parademons. They don't know who the heck the parademons are, which I'm not surprised because it just doesn't bother to give information about them. Yeah, and there's even guest star appearances by the Justice League in here. Oh, yes. Oh, I should point out, though, this series did have a crossover with Supergirl for a brief period of time. Yes, it did. And, heck, they even have guest star appearances here by Warren Ellis' Hitman character. I'm not kidding, he shows up for a couple issues. You want proof? Here he is on one of the covers from the series. Yeah, and also for some reason, I have no idea why DC did this for, because nowadays they actually do put the covers in between the issues. Here, they put the covers in the back of the trade. I have no idea why, but they did. There's even guest appearance by Batman in one of the issues. Yep. In one issue, which features the JLA, I think it's issue 2, I think it is. Yeah, issue 2. Yeah. Let's see. What members of the JLA guest on this issue? Okay, we have Kyle Rayner, Martian Manhunter, Wonder Woman, and the Wally West Flash. The only reason I know this is the Wally West Flash because it's published in 1997. He was the Flash at that point. So yeah, it's Wally West Flash. Oh, I should point out though, Resurrection Man walked around dressed like this. Like a frickin' hobo. And yes, I should point out though, a few issues were collected in Supergirl by Peter Day Book 3, which I'm glad the fact did that. Yeah. Also, there was a funny point in the series where he basically hires Hitman to frequently kill him just so he get different powers. And he gets killed like 10 times in one issue. I am not kidding about this. Apparently, Dan Abnett and Lenz really pushed the whole thing of him being a Resurrection Man, so every time he comes back, different superpower. Heck, there was even one point in the series, this was later on, that the group of characters known as the Forgotten Heroes, yes, the Forgotten Heroes, they actually thought he was the Immortal Man. Turns out they were completely untrue. Those of you who don't know who the Forgotten Heroes are, well, there's kind of a reason why, because they're forgotten. I'll see if I can find them here. Yeah, they're a group of characters that only show up a few times over the years. These basically made up of mostly C-list characters in a way. These are the members: Animal-Man, Ballistic, Cave Carson, The Ray, yes, The Ray, the original Ray, Rachel's father, Feltish, and the Pat Trace Vigilante. Yeah, but oh yeah, it is Ray Tur, okay. But mostly just Animal-Man, Ballistic. This is the original membership they had for the group. Animal-Man, Cave Carson, Congarilla, Dolphin, Dan Durance, Rick Flag, Rip Hunter, and the Immortal Man. Yeah, that was the original lineup, and they debuted in pages of Action Comics for 2 issues. Yeah, Animal-Man, the guy who basically Animal-Man made Grant Morris made awesome with his run on the book. They even guest star for a few issues of Resurrection Man. Yeah, they guest starred toward the end of the book. Yeah, it was like during the last few issues of the series where they even have him join the team. Heck, he even got a belt buckle with the initials of Forgotten Heroes, FH. Yep. This is fantastic. I highly recommend people who are fans of the writing duo of Dan Abnett and Lenz, despite the fact they're no longer writing together. The last book I know they did was the prelude for the Guardians of the Galaxy film that came out in 2014. This is probably by far one of the best books, and it's a fun series. I give this book a 9.5 out of 10. Next up is Showcase presents The Elongated Man. Yep. Like I said, this is the only book DC's ever published for this guy. Heck, this guy's even featured on The Flash. They just made him a regular character. The actor was promoted from recurring to regular status for season 5 of the show. Now, this book, like Martian Manhunter, where here's kind of the thing: most of the writers who did this book are all dead, except for Neil Adams. He's probably the only person who worked on an issue collected in this very book who is still alive. Yep. Created by John Byrne, Drew Broom, and Joe Gila. Yeah. This book collects Flash 112, 115, 119, 124, 130, 134, 138. Yeah, those are all appearances from Flash. And the comics 327 to 371. Yeah, he came in as a replacement for Martian Manhunter after he left the book with issue number 326 of the Comics. Alright. I should point out, though, when Elongated started, he didn't start out without a mask. Yeah, he didn't start looking like this. He did wear this outfit when he first started out, but here's the thing. If you want to know what he looked like in his first ever cover appearance, he looked like this, and he had a mask. Yep, he had an actual mask he wore, and he only wore it in the Flash issues. By the time he moved to the comics, he stopped wearing the mask. Despite the fact his identity was publicly known, he wore this mask for a good period of time. And of course, in his, I believe it was his third story, in the Undersea Trap, that's when they introduced Sue Dibney. Ralph Dibney's drop-dead gorgeous wife. She's smoking hot. Yeah, I appreciate how the artist draws her, because even though she kind of looks like a tomboy, she looks really damn good. I mean, heck, some people might think of Elongated Man as the luckiest man alive. Yeah, I'm not kidding. They would think of him like that. Let's see if I can find him here. Find her here. Let's see. Let's take a picture of Sue Dibney. Oh yeah, and she's also good friends with Iris West, at this point the fiance of Barry Allen. Those of you who don't know, when Barry Allen and Iris finally didn't marry, they got married in the 70s. Yep, they did. Let's see if I can find a picture of her. Let's see here. Because a lot of times she appears like briefly. Let's see, I'm trying to find a good picture of her. Yep, that's kind of the best I can do at the moment. Now, but Rob Dibney wears his costume from the moment he debuted up until the Comics 350, where he starts wearing his little more familiar costume that he's known for wearing when he's part of the Justice League. Yeah, that comic was the introduction of this costume. A costume he would wear for pretty much from this point forward up until the 1990s. Yeah, he wore this costume for like over 30 years. I'm not kidding, he did. Also, the cover of the book, it's taken from a panel from this story. This is from, I gotta find it here. This is 207. This is from Detective Comics number 336. Yep. Yeah, they even had a couple of team appearances with Batman. Yep. Yeah, 2 team appearances with Batman. Yeah. Oh, here's another good picture of Sue Dibney. Yeah, one thing interesting about Sue Dibney, they never really, if you notice from any other comic book, the way she's drawn, it's like, this was the definitive look for her, and they never changed her. She had short hair, which was probably typical for women in the 60s to do. Yeah. At least she's not tomboyish. Let's see if I can find the page here. Yeah, when he introduced his second official costume, yeah, the costume he would wear for over 30 years. He would wear it up until his miniseries in the 1990s, where he basically changed and put like an E on his costume. Let's see if I can find it here. Because it's his birthday, because it had been a year since his last birthday, so they said I had one last time wearing this original outfit, and he starts wearing this outfit right here. Yep, those of you read the Convergence, I think it was Just Like America title, and they saw Ralph Dibney wearing this costume, and they're probably thinking, okay, when did he start wearing that costume? Detective Comics 350, which is, this is something really weird about Detective Comics. Apparently, this is a comic where other superheroes have the debut of new costumes. Same thing happened with a Black Canary toward the end of Green Arrow's feature for this title prior to Crisis on Infinite Earths. That's where she got her costume she had during the late 80s when she's part of Justice League International. Basically, Tita Comics is where she first showed up that costume. The stories in here are just pure classic. Oh yeah, he also not only teams up with the Flash and Batman, he also teams up with all people, Kid Flash, Wally West, though he was not in his, the yellow suit that he's not wearing. No, Wally West basically wore, let's see here. Yeah, he actually wore a slightly different costume back then. Yeah, his costume was simply a carbon copy of, well, it was a carbon copy of Flash's costume, but for a kid. So later on, they decided to have it where he would wear a different costume. Basically, the costume he wear in the TV show is kind of what he was wearing in the comics at that point. So yeah. And whenever he look at him, he kind of looks like a younger version of pretty much a Barry Allen. That's how basically he was depicted. And the weird thing is, DC has never fully put his entire feature from this comic book into trade, which I think people would buy it because you were fans of okay, here is Kid Flash. Okay, so I'm thinking, okay, that's is that the Flash? Why is Flash shorter than Elongated Man? Yeah, that is Wally West Kid Flash, because his original costume was simply put an exact carbon copy of Barry's costume until he got his own individual costume with the color yellow in it. Yeah. A costume he would wear up until the 1986 Crisis on Infinite Earths event. Now, throughout these early team-ups, Elongated Man works with the Flash to take down a lot of the major villains the Flash is known for. You think a major villain? He fought Flash them. People like Captain Boomerang, Captain Cold. He never fought Heatwave, though. It was Captain Cold, Captain Boomerang, Pied Piper, Mirror Master, and the Weather Wizard. Yep, all 5 of these villains. Yeah, basically 5 characters to later become the founding members of the Rogues. And those of you curious, though, besides Heatwave, did he have Golden Glare? Nope, never did. So basically, at this point, he fought most of the major Flash villains who debuted at this point, so it's nice the fact Elongated Man got a chance to do it. But here's kind of the slight problem with Elongated Man. He fights other heroes' villains. He has no rogues gallery at all. That's a big disappointment for this character, is that he has no rogues gallery, despite the fact he's been around since 1960. The character's been around essentially for I think at this point it's been like 58 years. Yes, 58 years this character's been around, and the guy has got no rogues gallery. I mean, yeah, he also fought Sonar, which was a Green Lantern villain. Yeah, they even had Pieface, a character who was a recurring character during Hal Jordan's era during the Silver Age for Green Lantern, which Green Lantern did pop up in here too, which is nice. The fact I got a chance to do that. Heck, he even got a chance to team up with the gorgeous Santana. Yeah, which I thought that was awesome. The fact I had a chance to team with a drop the gorgeous woman. And one thing I appreciate for the Raiders, though, despite the fact, yes, he thinks that, that Zatanna's a beautiful woman, but I'm not going to hit that at all because I'm a married man. That's what he was probably thinking when he saw her, because this was the 60s. If this was written nowadays, if he was still married, he probably would cheat on his wife with Santana because she's just such a beautiful woman. That's how writers would write nowadays, but here's kind of the thing about Elongated Man and Sue Dibney. Their marriage is so perfect, and Elongated Man would never cheat on her with any woman because he loves her so much. That's one thing I do appreciate about Elongated Man, and I also appreciate the fact when they finally brought him into current continuity, they kept his marriage to Sue Dibney. I think a lot of people were so happy with that. Though first he started off as Big Shot, and people didn't know he even was Elongated Man until about halfway through Gail Simone's 3rd volume of Sacred Six. And even though, yes, he wore a slight different color costume, but yeah, it was Elongated Man. It was nice to see the guy again. Though he hasn't shown up since then, since Secret Six ended like 2 years ago. Yeah, but this is awesome. I highly recommend it to people who are curious about Elongated Man from the Flash TV show, like what was early Avengers in the comics, like how did they debut? Oh yeah, and by the way, it wasn't some particle, it wasn't some dark matter that gave his powers. He drank some formula and that's how he got his powers. Yeah, basically, if you look at his origin story, kind of similar to that of Plastic Man, which by the way they actually teased that giving him that name when they first gave him his suit. Though later on he was Elongated Man later on in the show. But yeah, he got his powers simply the same way Plastic Man did, drinking some juice. Yeah, that is how both of them got their powers. Though Patrick O'Brien is known as Plastic Man, and now I heard something that originally they were going to call him Plastic Man, but they couldn't because there's already another character called that. So, Elongated Man. Though he kind of is DC's version of Mr. Fantastic. Though, here's kind of the thing about him. There are two differences between him and Mr. Fantastic. One, he's not a scientist, he's an actor who made his fortune be a showman. And two, he's not a scientist. The only thing he has in common with Mr. Fantastic is that he can stretch his body, and he's married to a beautiful woman just like Reed Richards. Oh yeah, there's a third difference. Ralph and Sue never had kids. I'm not kidding. I have no idea why in the world DC never had a chance for these two to have kids. They were married for such a long time. They were married for prior to their deaths, prior to her death in 2004. They were married for 44 years. They were married, and they never had kids. Nope. And this was probably by far the first superhero marriage in DC Comics. Yeah. And probably the first publication-wise for any comic book company, first married couple in a comic book. Yeah, the first one to do that, though Marvel later copied that success with the marriage of Reed and Sue Richards, though that went on for like 5 or 6 years before they finally got married. Ralph married his wife in her first appearance. In the case of Reed and Sue, they waited until Fantastic Four A number 5 to get married. Yeah, they waited that long. But in the case of Ralph Dibny, at no point in the history of this character had him and his wife ever been separated. And there were no teases by DC Comics to separate these two characters, despite the fact Marvel's tried to do that for years with Reed and Sue Richards. The only reason why they can't do it with those two, go through it, because Stan Lee wrote the issue where they got married. Here, this is written by John Broome, a guy who basically co-created The Flash. So, I don't think DC is going to undo their marriage, because the fact that, well, here's kind of the thing. Elongated Man and The Flash are both created by the same person, along with Sue Dibny. I give this book a 10 out of 10. I highly recommend people to check out because of the Flash TV show. But I kind of wish DC would do more traits for this character, because they're not doing these books anymore. Why not do a Silver Age book for this character, collecting his entire Silver Age appearance, maybe aside from these appearances, he could probably collect his appearances from appearances books like Brave and the Bold. Excuse me. You can even throw in the issue where he joined the Justice League. Yeah, he joined Justice League at one point. And you can even eventually throw in his miniseries 1990s, which is called Elongated Man 94 for some reason. Yeah, that was a weird thing in the 90s where they put the year of when the comic came out on the actual cover itself. They did the same thing with the annuals as well, which was so bizarre. Though DC started doing with the showcase books, they did also with Elongated Man as well. Alright, so that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for the next episode, which is going to be believe it or not, episode 666, which is going to be a review of another showcase book and library book. You'll find out what they are in the next episode, okay? But until we see you there, bye.